Hey teachers, it's time for some tough love. Step away from the laminator, close the lesson planning tabs, and drop the guilt. You did it. You survived another school year. This summer isn't about prep. It's about you. In this episode, we are breaking up with the teacher guilt and reclaiming our peace of mind. Let's dive in.
So enjoying this summer series, Nicole. Derek can tell that it's been a lot of fun for the two of us to record this, so much that he was hoping today would be the day that him and Brandon could return for another husband episode.
It is wild. Okay, it's kind of like funny because they were so nervous about coming on, right? And we were a little nervous about having them because we didn't know what they were going to say. But their episode has been our number one episode. It is our most viral reel on Instagram right now, with over 75,000 people have viewed it so far. And the reshares, the likes, it's crazy. The saves on that one reel from them. And it just shows you, it goes to show you that people want to hear more from the spouses of teachers or the partners of teachers, or the families of teachers, because it really is a huge part of their world too, right? It's not just about us. It's a lot about them as well.
It's so true. And I think that episode gave people a glimpse into real life, right? For us, and how they step up to support us in our role and how we step up to support them in their roles. And I've had a number of people say to me that their husbands are now listening to the podcast because they wanted them to listen to that episode where Brandon and Derek were giving the scoop on what it is really for the 10 months of the school year, and to see if their husbands agreed with what Derek and Brandon were saying, or just to open up the conversation with their husbands about what are the tough times of the year and when do you like me better, in September or June, kind of thing. And so people have said that they've appreciated that conversation very much.
Absolutely. Like the emails that come in, the messages that are coming in, they want them back on the show, which to us is so funny. Obviously, they listen as well. So they're going to know they're a big deal right now. But it's just so funny to us because now, like, we can't let this go to their head.
I know. Their heads must be like just so inflamed, right? Such an ego now. Yeah, they're probably secretly coming up with their own podcast now.
So yeah, we will have them back on the show. And honestly, it will be back by popular demand. I actually am super proud to say that. They did a great job of really highlighting what it's like to be a spouse of an educator or a partner of an educator. And so I know we'll have maybe even more difficult questions for them now that we know that they are such rock stars on the podcast. So
No, now that we know they can handle it. And we didn't have to do too much editing either, Nicole.
we did not. So today we're going to talk about the real life of teacher guilt. That teacher guilt happens year round. It's not just something that happens, of course, in the summer, even though this is part of our summer series. But we do want to talk about the why behind teacher guilt, or at least the why that we think is behind teacher guilt, especially how it creeps up a lot in the summertime. And so I think just acknowledging the idea of, we talked about this before, the crash, what happens at the end of the year, but then now you don't really know how to move on, right? And so that's where that guilt tends to sneak in a little bit, because I know for me, at least, I'll talk for myself, is that when I'm sitting down and resting, especially right after school's out or in summer, I do feel this bit of guilt of I should be doing something. And so I think we need to normalize that idea that rest is part of moving forward. And I think that guilt part does sneak in because we haven't conditioned ourselves to allow ourselves to rest throughout the school year. And so we do, as teachers, tend to wait to the summer to rest, and we don't rest as much throughout the school year because we feel like there's not any time in that. And I know I have to do better at that myself, but we have to normalize that idea that sitting and doing nothing is a part of the process, and that is rest for us. I don't know. Do you feel the same way? Do you get teacher guilt in the summer when you feel like you're not doing anything, Michelle?
100%. And I was just thinking as you were talking, during a school day, Nicole, to be honest, the only time I sit is when I'm eating my lunch. And this has had to be something that I've developed over time, because there was a time that I didn't even sit and eat while the kids were eating because I was circulating as I needed to be. And then over the years, I thought, no, I'm not eating while they go out for recess or go to music. I am eating while they eat. And I had to really structure it and set up those expectations that while you're eating, I'm eating, and explain to the kids, this is the time for me to eat too. But honestly, that's the only time I sit during the school day. I am up all of the time. I get so many steps before the end of the day. And so when you go from that pace, when you're on your feet and making those decisions all day, every day, and then summer hits and it's full stop, you feel like you need to be productive every second of the day. As teachers, every minute counts, whether it's because you need to teach the curriculum or because if you pause for a second, you've lost your classroom management. Every minute of the day counts. And so I find when I transition into summer, I feel like I need to be productive every minute of the day. It's so true that the guilt sets in and I feel like I should be doing something. Do you feel the same way?
Yes, and I was thinking about this. Our jobs are never actually really finished as a teacher throughout the school year, right? We can spend 80 hours a week if we want to, differentiating lessons and coming up with centers and writing detailed individual feedback. But there will still always be more that you can do as a teacher. That's the thing that I think is hard, is that there's no kind of threshold of when to stop unless we put it on ourselves. And I know that's something I will always struggle with. I'm getting better at it, but it's something I'm going to struggle with, right? And so choosing to stop and rest always feels like a conscious choice for me. There's never just an end line where you're like, oh, okay, my day is done, right? Same with summer. There's not an end line or a start line even for that. Oh, what should I be doing right now? And it's from a mom perspective, it's from a friend and wife perspective, it's from a teaching perspective. What should I be doing right now? And so right now I'm trying to set a pretty hard boundary about nothing for teaching right now. Nothing. My July is my own. I've reclaimed it for sure this summer. And not to say that I'm going to not do things in August, because I will, to set myself up. But I've had to put that hard boundary on myself because the reality is our jobs are never done. And so it's that balance of finding, like, when can I just say stop? For me, it's now. I can't. I have to take July off and know I'll be better for it. But I do find that hard as well, Michelle.
And it is interesting to hear us talk about taking it off. We need to take it off, but we work in a profession that has normalized running on empty, right? And doesn't necessarily observe that July and August is absolutely must needed time off. And but we have negotiated that we can work a little bit in July and we can work a little bit in August, but summer break isn't a perk, right?
Oh,
It's a necessity.
it is. And I think that really in the end, and how this has morphed into this, I'm not really sure, but it's a systematic trap as a teacher, right? To just put in all these extra hours beyond our contractual hours all the time, which does include that summertime as well. So when I think about it like that, is that there's no automatic shut off valve for teachers. We have to be our own shut off valve. And as hard as that is to hear myself even say that out loud, I'm responsible for that. I'm responsible for shutting it
Mhm.
off and turning it on. And I'm making a conscious choice to be like, no, I'm not stepping into the world of lesson planning or setting up classrooms or anything like that as of right now, and taking that time away. So I think it's hard because those contractual hours are a myth, as we know, and that really does run into that summer time, which creates teacher guilt. So I think that we have to be able to reclaim that time ourselves as teachers, because the system has kind of set up this process that we do work in the summers. And unfortunately, we are the only ones as teachers to be able to take back our time.
As we should, right? We have to do that in order to rest and recover, but also reset ourselves so that we can be strong and be ready for the fall. I think you've led us well into the next segment about the boundary shift. And I had been thinking cleaning out your teacher bag or closing up your computer. And for me, I think I need to be a bit mindful of social media because we are on social media, of course, a lot with our podcast, but also to just be mindful, like in other countries, people go back to school before we do in the fall, right? Because they ended in the spring earlier than we did. And so, you know how our teachergram feed fills up with getting ready for back to school. That's all going to come at us before we go back. And I think I have to be mindful of that because as I see that come up, I'm going to want to transition into getting back to school too. And it won't quite be time yet. So I'm going to have to be really mindful of that boundary shift in that area as well.
Every summer it hits me. I don't know, but this is a thing. Whereas back to school shopping here, at least in Canada, probably in other parts of the world as well, starts now already. It's like I know that I'm going to walk into a store in the next few weeks and there's going to be back to school signs everywhere. I am going to walk right by those signs and try not to let them bother me because every year it kind of catches me off guard. It's, we just finished school. We're not back to school, but that's just the way that things are again are set up and the system that we run is that it's like this all year thing for teachers and it might not mean anything to anybody else walking by that's not in the education realm, but to me it always catches me off guard a little bit. I'm like, whoa, give us a break, we just stepped away, right? So setting boundaries, I know that you and I have talked about this many times before. We're getting better at it, but we still have lots of work to do. But some actionable takeaways for me this summer is I deleted the email from my phone so it's not on my main screen that I can't see anymore. And I've already cleaned out my teacher bag. I put it away, put my laptop away because I don't want to have to look at it every time I walk by or when I pick up my phone, but I'm reminded about things I have to do. So those are just some small little things that I've done to set some boundaries in time. But also, I know that, for example, I am not heading back to the school till August this year, which in the past I might have dabbled a couple days in July here and there and whatnot. But this year I'm like, no, I'm not even stepping back. And I've already made that very tough line in the sand for myself. So sticking to that, I think will be key in moving forward.
Have you seen that trend that's going around lately, Nicole, for having a landline summer, where people are getting something to stick their phone to the wall and to treat their phone like a landline? So it's only something that you use to make calls or to receive calls, that you're not using your phone for anything else. I was envisioning these 6 things on my wall. Actually, we only have 5 phones for 6 people in our house, but putting that up and seeing how that would go, even for an hour a day, right? How could that change your summer if you put it up for a short period of time?
It's so true. And just that comparison of our rest as teachers over the summer. So even sometimes it's funny because I'll see other teachers on Instagram on a holiday or resting, or it feels like maybe they're stepped completely away from school. That's probably not the reality, right? But it's like that comparison of both rest and that comparison of teaching. So it's like
Mhm.
this never ending back and forth. Should I be resting more? Should I be doing more work? Should I be resting more? Should I be doing more work? But again, that's on us because that's been a systematic kind of rollout of how things have gone in teaching over the years. And I do think the teachergram sometimes can even get to me personally. And so just that reminder of no, stepping away for a bit is a good thing to have.
It's so true. I think it's Dr. Jody Carrington who says comparison is the thief of joy. And I say it to my own kids all of the time when it comes to social media, that comparison is the thief of joy. But it is also true with teachers, right? And that can definitely impact our summers if we are comparing what holidays other people are going on, or also in that area of productivity or how they're preparing for the fall. I think that it can really jolt you back to reality that you are a teacher and perhaps not resting as you should be.
Absolutely. That kind of leads us into segment three, reframing rest as part of the job. We have to reframe rest as part of the job. And I love thinking about it because both you and I love sports of an athlete analogy in a bit of a way. So, as we know, high performance athletes, they don't feel guilty taking rest because they know that rest fuels them. Athletes know that they need rest to be productive and to step up to that next level. So, they know that sleep, good hydration, nutrition, stepping away from sport is part of the process. So, as teachers, why do we not do that? Why do we not
Mhm.
perform like those high performance athletes? Because realistically, 10 months a year, we are on an athletic journey as teachers, realistically, all speed ahead. But yet, we don't fuel ourselves the same way, I believe, as perhaps athletes do. As I said, they step away from their sport and they take all this rest so they can be better performers when they return to the sport. So as
Mhm.
teachers, I think we almost have to look at it as reframing ourselves like we need this time in order to be our best the next year.
It makes me think of an NHL hockey player's schedule, right? They often get up and they have their morning skate and their workout, a light meal, and then, I hope I'm not getting this wrong, a big nap right before they go for their team dinner. And I feel like I got the big nap nailed now, Nicole. go
Wait,
down
okay,
for
so
half an hour, but sleep for 3 or 4.
can we bring napping back to schools? Come on. How there's days where I actually feel like maybe just a 10 to 15-minute nap in my car might make me a better human, but I don't ever do
Mhm.
it. But it's one of those things where I think I probably possibly should. I don't know. But I do love the idea though that rest is part of performance. And if I think about it from that perspective, I actually might be able to take a bit of a breather. I'm going to actually think about
Mhm.
that. I'm going to try to reframe my own mindset this summer.
I've thought about this a lot as a child who grew up on a farm because there were always chores to do. And it's not like we were slaves to the farm, don't get me wrong, but there was an expectation that we pitched in because the animals needed to be tended to. And so it's interesting when I talk to my family members still. My mom, who's retired, I'll say, "How was your day?" And she'll say, "I haven't been very productive today." And I'll say, "And you shouldn't be. You don't have to do anything. It's okay to rest and prioritize rest." But I think as a farm kid, as teachers, as a mom, as a wife, as society, we feel this need to go. And you and I are probably the worst at slowing down and resting. My friend Andrea was laughing after one of our podcast episodes back in June about how we were going to have this restful, slow summer. And then you and I proceeded to talk about all the things we were going to learn and do, and the places we were going to go, and who we were going to see. And we were cracking up because, as much as we want to do that, we want to try all these things while we have the time as well.
I've also heard the same feedback from some of my listener friends. I also have to remind myself because I do feel a lot of guilt in the summer. I'll be honest. And I think that's what we talked about having this episode is just like putting a name to it, right? I have to remind myself that feeling guilty doesn't mean I'm doing something wrong. It just means I'm changing a habit because I do feel guilty even thinking about not doing work in July for my classroom. And I just realized that I'm feeling that guilt because I should be feeling a bit of that guilt because it's teaching me a lesson. It's teaching me that I'm feeling this way for a reason. And so it's what I'm going to do with that information. And so I know for me, it just means I'm breaking an old habit. And that's how I'm going to
Mm,
look at it this summer. And
mm.
so I would challenge all teachers listening out there is to pick maybe a boundary today, whether it's deleting an app from your phone, whether it's not stepping into a classroom, whether it's not reading that professional development book, at least right now, and just try to change that one thing and fiercely protect it. Because I think that if we change one thing and move slowly through that, hopefully, my hope, at least for myself, is that over time it will get a little bit easier.
When we go for dinner with our girlfriends and we're trying not to have teacher talk, this could be one question we have for them is, what boundary have you put in place, or what is one thing that you can change so that you can actually relax, recharge, reset this summer? So we said we would keep these short and sweet. So I'm just going to leave us with our next episode topic, our last episode in our summer series, which will be episode number 4. We're calling it the Gentle Runway, stepping back into the school or classroom or office on your own terms. And so we hope you'll enjoy us for the 4th episode in our series, which will air next week.
Thanks, everyone. And we're looking forward to you tuning in for our final episode of our summer series. Take care. Wait, is that the bell? The buses are rolling and we've got duty.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Teachers Next Door podcast. If you enjoyed this week's PD session, do us a solid. Leave a rating, 5 stars preferably, and a review. Think of it as giving us an A+ on our eval. It helps other listeners find their way to our neighborhood. As the kids say, please subscribe.
Do you have a burning question or topic you would like to hear about? Send us an email or message. Be sure to follow us on Instagram for show updates and details on future episodes.
This podcast was produced and edited by us, your teachers next door. No outsourcing here. The reality of all teachers. We do it all.
If nobody else has told you today, just remember, you are doing a great job. Catch you next time.
And we should mention, the ideas we share on this podcast are totally our own.